Yo, this one right here is different. Lil Jeff's killers thought they were safe behind bars, talking wild in Cook County like nobody was listening. But they forgot one thing. Them walls got ears and cameras. Yeah, you heard that right. Dudes started spilling details about the hit, not knowing the whole thing might have been caught on tape. Surveillance, jailhouse phones, maybe even snitches with burners. Either way, the streets got a hold of it. And what they said? Insane. We're a year deep since Lil Jeff got caught up, but this new leak just flipped the whole story on its head. June 8, 2024 wasn't supposed to end with blood on the concrete, but when you're deep in the game, death don't wait for invitations. The 6600 block of South Rhodes Avenue became another memorial site, another spot where mothers would leave teddy bears and pour out liquor for the fallen. But here's where it gets twisted. The dudes who pulled the triggers, they got caught slipping in Cook County, running their mouths like the walls wasn't listening. And the wildest part, it might all be on tape. Today we dig into the truth, the betrayal, and the blood that still stains Rhodes Ave. Stick around to the end, but first, let's rewind. Let me show you how we even got to Lil Jeff in the first place. Before the bullets found him, Jeffrey Harris, that's Lil Jeff to anyone who knew what was good, was carving out his lane in Chicago's brutal music scene. Jeff grew up on the South Side, where survival meant choosing sides before you even understood what war you were signing up for. But the streets got a different type of gravity, you feel me? Learning the game that would eventually cost him everything. See, Jeff wasn't your typical drill artist trying to blow up off cap raps about bodies he never caught. Nah, this dude was really living what he spit. Nothing major at first, just him and his boys freestyling over stolen beats in somebody's basement. But Jeff had that raw energy, that authentic pain in his voice that made you believe every bar. What separated Jeff from the hundreds of other kids trying to rap their way out the hood was his connection to the streets. Every track was like a page from his diary, talking about sliding on ops, dodging cases, and watching homies fall. The authenticity resonated, especially with younger cats who saw their own struggles reflected in his lyrics.
There's no how it'll get. When I pop out up in traffic, might have drank a double sweet.
Local blogs started posting his videos, and his Instagram followers jumped from a few hundred to several thousand. He linked up with other up-and-coming drill artists, did features that expanded his reach. See, in Chicago's drill scene, success don't just bring money and fame, it brings smoke from every direction. Every new video meant more attention, some good, some dangerous. His grandmother, who had raised him while his father served a life sentence, tried to steer him away from the streets. But Jeff was already in too deep, and with the money finally rolling in, walking away didn't feel like an option anymore. Even as show money started coming in, he stayed tapped into the block. He'd roll through with groceries for the elders, slide cash to the kids for school supplies, always trying to look out in the ways he could. He saw pieces of himself in those young ones and wanted better for them, even if he hadn't made it through school himself. Check this out though, Jeff's love for his hood came with a price. He couldn't just rap about the war, he has to fight in it. And in Chicago, that double life don't get retirement plans. It gets funerals. What's wild is, he wasn't even low-key about it. He stayed posting online. One post from early 2024 had him claiming Rhodes Ave loud and proud. It was bold, but in a city like this, bold can get you buried. His alleged ties to the Bloodhound Brims. For those who don't know, the Brims are a subset of the Bloods that been active in Chicago since the early 2000s. They ain't as deep as some other sets, but what they lack in numbers, Jeff's connection to them wasn't no secret. Dude literally had BHB tatted on his neck and threw up their signs in damn near every video. The Bloodhound Brims operated mainly out of the Roseland and West Pullman neighborhoods, territories that been hot since forever. The Gangster Disciples from 63rd, the Black P Stones from the East, and even some internal blood conflicts that made every day a potential war zone. Being BHB in Chicago meant you had more enemies than allies, and Jeff wore that target on his back like a badge of honor. What made Jeff's affiliation even more dangerous was his refusal to move low-key. While other members might have kept their activities on the low, Jeff was broadcasting his every move.
Niggas trying to come around, they see I'm going up. I missed the Percocet with the little Henny
His Instagram stories showed him posted up in known BHB territory, flashing guns and money, calling out ops by name. His music videos were basically declaration of wars, filmed in rival territories with his whole squad masked up and armed.
Safe from the rack, I see his thing. Ain't no question he get tasted. I be fresh if I'm trying to kill a nigga.
We don't know how about 2D, bro. Gon' give me shots and I'm gon' give him niggas out here killing.
Street sources say Jeff caught his first body at 17, though that was never proven in court. Possession charges, aggravated battery, unlawful use of a weapon. Each case either got dropped due to witnesses refusing to testify, but in the streets, your record ain't about what the courts say. That he wasn't just talking tough in his music, he was backing it up in the streets. The number that kept coming up was 11.
Gon' bust your head. 3 fight. Fuck that shit, that's 11.
Rumors claiming he was tied to that many murders before he got caught up himself. Folks said he slid on rivals, dissed the dead in his tracks, and made enemies in just about every direction. His name carried that weight, and that weight made him a target. And
Bitch, I'm in traffic with Lil Scorpy, got that bro, we call this little ass black. I'm driving, but I bounce and I shoot to it and all that black attack.
When they needed someone to ride for a fallen member, Jeff was first in the car. When rivals dissed dead homies in songs, Jeff's response tracks dropped within days. By 2023, Jeff had survived 3 separate attempts on his life. One outside a studio, another at a gas station, and one that left him with a permanent limp from a bullet that grazed his leg. Security footage that later leaked showed Jeff pumping gas when a car pulled up. 2 dudes hopped out shooting, and Jeff dove behind his car, pulled his own piece, and returned fire. The shootout lasted maybe 30 seconds, but over 40 shots were fired. Jeff's homie in the passenger seat caught one in the shoulder. After the smoke cleared, Jeff helped him back in the car and drove him to the hospital himself, knowing the cops would be all over the scene in minutes. Jeff was allegedly involved in drug distribution, mainly pills and lean, using his music career as a front to wash the money. It's not necessarily serving hand-to-hand, but making sure operations ran smooth. Multiple sources confirmed Jeff had his hands in various criminal enterprises, from credit card fraud to gun trafficking. The feds were building a case, but Jeff stayed one step ahead. Jeff wasn't out here talking about leaving the streets behind. Even with the music taking off, he stayed tapped into the same block. If anything, the fame just made him double down. More pride, more pressure, more eyes on him. That life was in him, and he carried it like a badge. It's only a matter of time before the streets collect. See, Jeff didn't just have enemies, he had generational hatred pointed at him from multiple directions. His main ops came from the Gangster Disciples set out of 63rd and King Drive, a beef that started way before Jeff even picked up a mic. Back in 2018, Jeff's older cousin, Big Meech from BHB, allegedly killed a high-ranking GD member during a dice game gone wrong. That murder set off a chain of retaliation that claimed at least 12 lives over the next 5 years. And this one, way more personal. Street's been saying Jeff messed around with the baby mama of someone high up in their crew, then went on IG Live and threw shade like he didn't care who saw it. Supposedly got screen recorded and passed around, showing him clowning hard. Whether it was true or just talk, it hit the wrong nerves. In this game, disrespect tied to a woman don't get brushed off easy. And a couple close calls that folks started linking back to them stones. And even inside the Blood Alliance, Jeff wasn't safe. Tensions within the Brim started to rise as other Blood sets felt like he was bringing too much heat to the table. His non-stop posts, wild lyrics, and diss tracks had him looking more like a magnet for drama than an asset. There was even talk about internal green lights, though nothing ever got confirmed. Every time Jeff dropped a track, retaliation felt one step closer, and the whole set had to move different. Because he was making real money and had a loyal squad of young hitters ready to ride for him. Jeff's crew was allegedly pushing pills in Cobra territory without checking in. A shootout followed and 2 Cobras ended up hit. After that, Jeff couldn't show his face near the Taylor homes without knowing it might go down. What's wild is Jeff had a real shot at squashing some of this drama. Talking grown man talk and urging peace before more blood got spilled. He saw any move toward peace as a sign of weakness, especially after going so hard in his music, calling out names and disrespecting dead ops. Backing down wasn't in his playbook. In March, his grandmother's house got shot up while she was at church. A month later, his car was torched outside a studio session. By May, Jeff was clearly moving like a ghost. No routine, no new wheels and eyes on every shadow. But in a city like Chicago, when someone really wants you gone, changing patterns only buys time. Social media made things even hotter. Jeff couldn't stay quiet. Every diss, every threat, every rumor got a response. With both sides posting locations, dropping threats, and fanning the flames for everyone watching. He spent the afternoon in the studio laying down tracks for what was supposed to be his first official album. Word from the team was that he was in good spirits, focused, energized, talking about a big label meeting lined up for the following week. Around 4 p.m., he dipped from the studio telling his engineer he had to handle something back on the block. Despite the constant threats and his people warning him to chill, Jeff couldn't stay away from Rhodes Avenue. Others say he was checking on his grandmother who lived nearby. Either way, he made the one mistake you can't afford in the streets, being predictable. He pulled up near a corner store he hit often, and in doing so, set himself up. What nobody realized at the time was that Jeff had walked straight into a setup. The person he thought he was meeting, that was a trap. Later investigations uncovered messages on his phone, texts exchanged with someone saved as Kuzo, lining up a meetup at that exact corner store at that exact time. Kuzo was feeding his location to the ops in real time. Around 5:17 p.m., 2 masked shooters came in from opposite directions. The first shots cracked the silence and chaos followed. Leaked surveillance footage later showed when the first shots went off, Jeff didn't run. He pulled out and started firing back. He let off several rounds, chasing one of the shooters toward the side of a building. The second shooter was already moving in from the side. As Jeff turned the corner, he got hit and dropped to the ground, but it didn't stop there. While Jeff was down, the shooter walked up and let the whole clip go. That part wasn't about making sure. That was about sending a message. People said it sounded like a war zone. The whole neighborhood lit up with gunfire. People were ducking, running, chaos everywhere. The block lit up like Baghdad. Gunshots echoed like thunder. People hit the ground screaming. It was war in broad daylight. Torso, head, legs, it was brutal, execution style. He started firing back, trying to catch the shooters before they got away. The shooters escaped in a stolen Infiniti. First, they didn't notice a new camera system installed by a local business just days before. Third, and most damning, they bragged about it almost immediately. Chapter 5, caught slipping behind bars. Within 72 hours, Chicago PD had their suspects. The dropped phone led to Marshawn Williams, 22, known on the streets as Marley. Cell tower data placed him at the scene, and surveillance from earlier that day showed him casing the area. His accomplice, identified as DeAndre Thompson, 19, went by Draco. Both were known GD members with extensive records and direct connections to those Jeff had dissed in his music. Then came Robert I-Trap Rob Coleman. A familiar face in the drill scene, Rob wasn't just a random name. They called him I-Trap Rob because of his rap ties and online presence. He was affiliated with Trap City, a clique with deep links to the South Side's gang politics. Rob had already done time for gun charges and was known to roll with heavy hitters. So when cops picked him up for Jeff's murder, it didn't surprise too many people. They said he was there, maybe even the shooter. But after holding him for days, investigators couldn't lock down enough to make it stick. Ballistics came back unclear, witnesses weren't talking, and surveillance footage left gaps. The only thing solid, Rob had a gun on him and he wasn't supposed to. As a convicted felon, that alone was enough to book him. So the murder charge got dropped and he walked out with just a firearm case hanging over his head. Still, just being connected to Jeff's killing put a target on his back, both in the system and in the streets. But here's where the story takes a wild left turn. After getting booked into Cook County Jail, Marley and Draco must have thought they were good. Safe to talk, safe to flex. What they didn't realize was that everything was being watched. Conversations were being monitored, and whether it was official surveillance or jailhouse phones in the hands of snitches, their words didn't stay behind bars for long. Soon enough, pieces of those conversations started leaking to the streets and the internet. Multiple sources claimed to have heard the recordings, and the story was always the same. Marley was talking reckless. In one clip that made the rounds on TikTok, a voice that sounded just like him was bragging about how they had been tracking Jeff for months, talking about how Jeff made it easy by always posting his location. And when they finally caught him slipping on roads, they celebrated like it was a holiday. The lack of remorse was chilling. In another leaked clip, that same voice broke it down even further. They had tried to catch Jeff slipping before, first at his baby mama's spot, but backed off because there were too many kids around. Then they planned to hit him at a show in Joliet, but security was too tight. The opportunity on roads came from the inside. Once they got word, straight from someone close to Jeff, that he'd be out there alone, with no security and no crew, that was the green light. Everything lined up. Draco, in a separate leaked recording, supposedly revealed who was behind the hit. According to the audio, someone higher up from 63rd wanted it handled before summer even started. Jeff had crossed too many lines, disrespected too many dead names, and they felt it was time to make an example. The clip also hinted at a payment, 50 grand for the job, allegedly split between Marley and Draco. But the most chilling part? The planning. This wasn't no random drive-by. This was a hit carefully put together over weeks. They had someone close to Jeff feeding them intel, when he'd be in the studio, when he'd visit his grandma, even what car he'd be in. One of his own people sold him out, trying to earn stripes with the ops. Cold-blooded betrayal. Social media went crazy when clips of the alleged jail conversations surfaced. TikTok users turned into detectives overnight, breaking down every word, comparing voices to past videos of the suspects. Reddit lit up with threads connecting dots, speculating on how this tied into other unsolved murders. As far as the streets were concerned, this wasn't speculation. It was a confession caught on tape. What made the recordings even more disturbing was the complete lack of remorse. Marley reportedly cracked jokes about Jeff's final moments, mocking the way he reacted once he realized what was happening. Draco allegedly made it worse, laughing about Jeff's mother having to ID his body, turning her pain into a punchline. One of the coldest clips was the one where they talked about the setup. They were proud of it, bragging about how they used one of Jeff's own people to lure him in. Jeff thought he was linking up with someone he trusted to handle a re-up. Instead, he walked into his own execution. In the end, it wasn't just the ops that got him. It was betrayal from someone right next to him. Prosecutors couldn't touch the leaked recordings in court. Between unclear origins, sketchy chain of custody, and legal gray areas, the tapes were ruled inadmissible. But on the streets, the impact was massive. Marley and Draco's credibility took a major hit. Even their own crew started backing away, realizing that all that loose talk might have exposed more than just themselves. Entire operations could be at risk. The rap scene responded fast. A major Chicago artist who had known Jeff publicly called out the recklessness, saying these guys were basically snitching on themselves and making the whole city hot. His post exploded online, over 100K likes, before he eventually took it down, likely realizing the drama wasn't worth getting dragged into. Another well-known industry figure, someone who used to manage King Von, jumped in too. He warned young artists to move smarter, pointing out how betrayal always comes from the inside. Jeff, in his eyes, got lined by someone he fed, someone from his own circle. That was the part that stung the most. The lesson was loud and clear. Trust no one and stay dangerous. Jeff's death hit Chicago's drill scene like a shockwave. Within hours, his streams spiked, tributes flooded social media, and murals started popping up on the South Side. One tweet summed it up perfectly. Lil Jeff turned the Chicago drill scene back up, and it died with him, SMH. Another post read, "Yeah, everybody knew he was gonna die, but we ain't think it was gonna be so soon." The streets were stunned, and the internet reflected that grief mixed with grim expectation. But this wasn't just about mourning. It was about retaliation. The Bloodhound Brims didn't wait on paperwork or trials. They immediately put money on Marley and Draco's heads. Not just for the murder, but for breaking street code by running their mouths behind bars. And then the killing started. Every move the Brims made after that followed the same script: public, brutal, calculated. It wasn't just about getting even, it was about sending a message. Jeff's death wouldn't go unanswered. Word on the street was that the Brims dropped 6 figures for info leading to any other GDs tied to the hit. The war Jeff had been caught up in didn't end with him. It kept rolling, pulling more young lives into the fire. Meanwhile, the legal case against Marley and Draco crawled through the system, but it didn't matter. In the streets, their fate was sealed. Even if they beat the charges, which was looking less and less likely, they were already marked. There was no walking away from this one. What's particularly tragic about Jeff's story is how preventable it feels in hindsight. He was a young artist with real potential, someone who had the skill, the platform, and chances to move different. But instead of stepping away, he stayed locked into the same cycle that had claimed so many before him. Hours before his death, he was still posting like everything was normal, unaware of how close the danger really was. The leaked jail recordings, real or not, highlighted just how numb things have gotten. The way Marley and Draco allegedly talked about the murder, like it was just another move on a board, showed how deep the dehumanization runs. There was no hesitation, no second thought, just cold, detached laughter about taking someone out. That's what years of violence and betrayal do in the trenches. They turn life into currency and death into a punchline. As of now, Marley and Draco await trial, maintaining their innocence despite mounting evidence. Their trial date keeps getting pushed back, with their lawyers filing motion after motion. The streets continue to buzz with rumors about more recordings, about other names mentioned, about potential snitches and future retaliation. Jeff's music lives on, his posthumous releases gaining millions of streams from fans who see him as another martyr in Chicago's endless gang wars. The sad reality is that Jeff's death changed nothing. Young men still chase the same dangerous dreams, thinking they'll be the ones to make it out while staying 10 toes down in the streets. They post the same reckless content, make the same enemies, and ignore the same warnings. Jeff's life turned into a warning, but the ones who needed to hear it the most, they ain't listening. Same story, different body. In the end, Lil Jeff's legacy is complicated. To his fans and family, he was a talented artist and loyal friend who gave back to his community. To his enemies, he was a dangerous gang member who dissed the dead and promoted violence. The truth, as always in these situations, lies somewhere in between. What's undeniable is that his death and the alleged jail confessions that followed exposed the brutal reality of Chicago's street politics, a reality where young men kill and die over neighborhood boundaries, social media disrespect, and cycles of retaliation that seem to have no end. The streets keep taking, and mothers keep crying, while the rest of us watch from the sidelines, wondering when enough will finally be enough. I appreciate y'all for watching though, so make sure to like and click another box on your screen to watch another video. Stay safe out there, yo.